Sophie, welcome to the Buy, Grow, Sell podcast.
Hello, Simon. Thank you for having me here. Great to see you again.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. For those listening, I've had the privilege of meeting Sophie before. I think it was probably about 5 years ago or something. We were down in Melbourne, and I remember we were in a group of people having a drink and a good chat about business. It was a lot of fun, and so I've had the great pleasure of watching you grow and do lots of different things over the years too. So very excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you. Nice to catch up, and you've done all sorts of interesting stuff in the meantime as well.
Yeah, it's good to reconnect. Sophie, for those who haven't met you or perhaps heard about you before, but maybe you could kick off and just give a little bit of your background. I know, you've specialised over the last number of years in online businesses, and Amazon certainly has played a big part in that history. But I guess give us a bit of your background and what kind of led you to getting into business.
Okay, well, this will be my 10th year of pure online business, which is pretty fun because back in 2013, with good old Amazon FBA, I got off to a pretty flying start. So I had a lot of luck, possibly, maybe beginner's luck, but certainly chose some pretty cool Amazon products that turned into really great brands, and was a fan of, creating value and then exiting well. I decided to sell that first brand when it was about 18 months old. So I got a cool $1 million for that. Thank you very much. Nice investor in the States. No capital gains tax in New Zealand, winning. And then
Nice.
cloud deposited that back into, paid off a mortgage, which was fun, relocated to the South Island of New Zealand, even nicer. And then built another brand, sold that one. That was a tea business. And then I did lots of other products, did some coaching of Amazon, and then did ebooks on Amazon and coaching that as well. And then in the last 2 or 3 years, I've been trying a whole new thing, which is what we're hopefully going to talk about mostly today. And is, with your background, this buying and selling business game, I think that's such a wildly fun and lucrative and quick, and just so many positives about it. So I've been buying businesses. So all online ones, apart from one random dog business in Christchurch, but 20-something deals done now, some little WordPress sites, some great big things with huge databases attached, a few software ones. But it's been really, really cool just fine-tuning a process to pick really good online assets that just earn instant income the day you own them. So that
very nice. Talk to me a little bit about the online business space, because having been in the game of buying and selling businesses for the last number of years, I mean, it's been an interesting period with COVID. It certainly changed the market for a lot of people and a lot of businesses. But of course, what we did see was online businesses started to really boom as well. You got in early, right? And I guess I'm curious, even when you say to me that you sold a business after it was only 18 months old, I mean, traditional style businesses would struggle to sell a business that's only 18 months old, but clearly the online world is different. And I guess I'm just curious in what that journey was like. What got you into online businesses in the first place?
I was actually on maternity leave and didn't want to go back to the day job. So that's my daughter, who's just about 10 now. So in Wellington, nice job for government. I had a pretty easy time, and 2 children made a big difference to the economics of going back to work versus lots of childcare and a baby and a toddler. I was running pretty ragged. So I kind of did everything, not to be a lifestyler, but a serious income replacement kind of project. So I mucked around looking for ages at webinars and all the things out there, Tupperware parties, the lot. But living in a small town in New Zealand and being very ambitious, it looked like you had to go with a big platform, and I hate social media. So it was sort of by process of elimination, really, and what looked real and tangible. And I liked the idea of physical products on Amazon at first. So that got me used to the Amazon game. And then from there, even better than Amazon products on FBA were Amazon ebooks, where the profit margins are basically double and there's no shipping and inventory drama. So there's pros and cons on both. But I was definitely very early selling my first Amazon brand. I did my first tax returns, and another Australian, Jock Pirtle, who's a business broker in the States now. I did my tax for the first full 12 months cycle of business. And I was like, oh, Jock, what do you think this business would be worth? He's like, I'll get you $1 million for it tomorrow. Give it to me. I want to list it. I was like, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And the exchange rate was cracking, and, it was just worth a push. And I went over and met the buyer in Salt Lake City. And as I was boarding back on the plane on the way home, the money cleared in the bank, and I did one bank transfer and cleared my mortgage. So, this is fun. I could do that again. Let's build another brand and sell it. So
nice.
Work with that is really kind of front-end loaded. You do all the grind yourself to build it up, get the profit, optimize it, and then a big hump at the end to get it really looking nice for the sale, tidying up loose ends, documenting things. So that was cool. But then the income level just drops off to zero, and it was a bit, finding new products to launch, and I kind of kept going, and it was nice to be cashed up. So we went to Bali, lived there for 3 months before my son started school, and then did more brands and more stuff on Amazon. But I've definitely not bought Amazon product businesses, and I did a little bit of buying Kindle at the start just to learn the ropes. And I bought one fiction business because I had no idea how to do fiction. I worked out non-fiction books pretty easily, but I could see the fiction people made a lot of money. So I bought one of those. And I've bought quite a few businesses in the publishing world because that's really where I can see there's lots of quite quick evolution. The old school, big old publishing houses are kind of gone. And the new model where you don't need an editing process and people to, take you on and publish and do a massive print run and get approval from anyone. You can just self-publish on Amazon. So I bought some businesses in that publishing space. So one thing I bought was a big newsletter of lots of keen readers, which was cool. And that's turned out to be a really good investment. That was probably the biggest deal I've done. And some of them being completely unrelated, some were like guitar sites and all sorts of other things.
I'd like to come back to that newsletter in a minute if I can, because you've got me really interested on that. But just before I sort of move on from the Amazon space, because I think you were early to the game, obviously with Amazon and understanding Amazon, even as a consumer, clearly. These days Amazon's bigger than Ben-Hur, and a lot of people are familiar with it. And I think there's as with anything, when an area of a market becomes more mature, a lot more people are talking about it. I'm just curious though, like, every man and his dog understands the internet and why the internet is a good model. But how would an Amazon business differ from just somebody who has their own website and is selling stuff online? How do they differ, both just from an operational perspective, but also as you went into the deal to sell that? I mean, were there differences that from other styles of businesses?
Oh, well, there's some really big pros and a couple of really big cons. It is quite a different thing to, say, having your own Shopify site that you run your own ads to and having your own database. So the big plus is Amazon's customers have really high buyer intent, and it's really a search engine game. So a customer on Amazon searches for a product and buys straight away. They're not mucking around being sociable. They're just there to shop. So that's great. You've got the right product in front of the eyeballs of the people. You've got data on the keyword searches. So that's the big appeal, really, is that you don't need to find your own customers. All the marketing's done. You just have to stay in stock of products that people want and stay on page one. So that side's appealing. It's easy to learn because it's quite mechanical once the product's ranked. So selling that, cash flow and big steady platform, no funny tricky algorithm things. It's pretty stable. You're not going to get walloped with a Google algorithm or some Facebook group closes on you and you're screwed. So that's really appealing. It's stable. The rules are tough, but the rules are really clear. And anytime Amazon changes the rules, it's usually making it a cleaner, better platform and getting rid of some bad actors. So that's that side. The downside is you don't own the customers. And so you don't have your own email list. You don't get to remarket anything else to your existing customers. But it's pretty easy to drive an existing one. But I haven't actually bought any Amazon businesses. Since I've been doing Amazon products, there's been this whole industry. Thrasio raised, I think, over $1 billion to do these big rollouts. And so anything decent's pretty well picked over. They're pretty aggressive. They've got pretty mean payout schedules, I think. So I've heard mixed things. Like, I'm quite happy to be focused more on ebooks at the moment. I mean, products are still great. I've still got a few, but I think the ebook is a little bit easier. But
it's interesting you say that about the bigger players out there, though, because I think any time a market becomes more mature, it becomes slightly more commoditized, right? And so there's less margins, everything gets squeezed around the fringes, and it becomes a lot more sort of cutthroat. But I'm just curious too, like how typically would an Amazon business like the one you sold be valued? I mean, is it, we see multiples of EBITDA and revenue and all these sort of different models, but is there a formula?
Yeah, sort of about the same as any other e-commerce, so about 3 annual. Some of the brokers do it in 36 months and some do it 3 years, but around three sellers' discretionary earnings, sort of EBITDA.
Okay, sellers' discretionary. Okay, yeah, interesting.
Not too many other expenses in there. Like, I can't write off anything in my personal life. There's no cars driving around. I've got one. This is my daughter's old bedroom, which is now an office. So, it's a bit of reclaiming space, but that's it. So it's pretty much, a very simple business. Got suppliers.
That's cool. So, okay, so about three times discretionary earnings. That's interesting. How did you go from, you sold the business, you got some money in the bank, that's always a nice feeling, unless it takes a bit of pressure off. How did you find the shift from being a seller to a buyer? Was it just a reverse of the process? Was it different? How did you, that's a completely sort of different angle.
Your podcast has got 3 things in, and I love them all equally. I love buying for the instant cash flow. I love growing. I love being creative. I love that entrepreneurial, this is, could be optimized here, or add this platform or this product here, or cut out that overhead and hire that team. I love growing businesses. And then selling is such a rush because it's like you've won a game. So I'm not actually motivated by money on any of the 3. They're all like playing a game on a platform. And you can hop between the platforms and you can play a big game or a small game and you can get other people on your team to help you. It's just like playing. And so a sale at a good price is a real win. Like, that's a big goal. So it feels really good. But there's something much healthier about future income being certain rather than a lump sum today, I reckon. Just psychologically. So I don't want to sort of feel like you're falling off a cliff, even if it's a really nice high point. So I actually went and got some business coaching when I sold my business. I got this big dollop of cash and I was in Bali, and Roger Hamilton was over there, and he probably knows lots of people that listen to this as well. He gets all sorts of interesting people in his coaching programs, and he sort of helped me stop and think about a bit about next steps, and that was good. And then I really like being creative, and so I've always made sure I kind of choose the business models that suit my strengths. I'm never going to be crunching ad data ever, and I don't want to do social media, and I want to be live part-time ladies' hours, school mum run, I want to be there for kids. So much more modest ambition in certain ways, but I want to have clever businesses and quality businesses that I'm really proud of. And so
what do you look for in a quality business then? If you were going to buy a company, is there certain things are a must?
Yeah. So I've got my boring spreadsheet of, if the Google Analytics are this range, or, I've got various metrics on the tech side. I want to buy a WordPress platform type site, but not something built on some weird and wonderful home built code. I keep the front end of my screening pretty simple, but there's this non-negotiable at the end, and I didn't always have it, but I've got to really feel like there's some X factor, and I've got a personal interest in the subject. So I bought a guitar site, which is a great little business. It earns a really nice income stream from ads and affiliate income, but I'm not really interested in it. So I kind of do the work and I see the money come in. It's all very nice, but I can't get that excited about it. And also, when I'm not the target market of the business, it's a little bit harder to think creatively, this affiliate product would be great, or this article would be really useful. Or if somebody does the writing, or you don't know actually how good it really is, you can check it for grammar and if it looks useful, but it doesn't kind of quite hook you in the same way that it needs to hook your customers. So I quite like personal interest of some sort. So I try and I love a recurring subscription type model. That's a big plus on that one, and put a really high value on that. And I love it.
Do you see a shift in? Sorry to cut across you there, but do you see businesses with subscription models, monthly recurrings and all the rest of it? Do you see them trading at different levels, different kind of multiples to other forms of e-com businesses?
No. So I've only bought one that's a classic recurring, true SaaS sort of monthly subscription job. And that was the same multiple. And I actually got the price down. The asking price was $190 and I got it for $135. So,
right.
And that would have been a multiple 3 at the asking price. And I got it down from that. So that was a good investment, that one. Real winner.
Yeah.
That makes $90K.
And the businesses. Yeah. So the businesses you're buying, so you're obviously in a range here where it's obviously manageable. It's something within your sort of realm, I guess. But are you just buying these and bolting them on? Do you buy them with the intent of building it, growing it, and selling it again, or are they bolting together as a bet? Like there's so many questions I have here, but
it's really, it's fascinating. I mean, I could go in 10 different directions. So what I do is I try and stick to a certain, so my limiting factor is my team. It's really hard to find good people, but I find it hard to find good people and who get me and can work in my erratic mode and keep up with the pace and a very loose brief and no micromanagement. So I've got 2 girls who are awesome. They're both in New Zealand, actually. So they do all the tech side. They look after sending emails out of Active Campaign, all these things I don't want to drive all day, every day. So we don't do social media. We don't buy any businesses that are based on social media. We do a bundle of content sites, and they're all on WordPress, and they're all monetized the same way. So while one might be on guitars and one might be on dogs, they're both Mediavine or whatever ad platform, and then they've both got affiliate links, and the reporting and the moving parts look identical. It's just different money on different products and services. So that's easy. They scale quite nicely. And I've bought, of the 20 odd businesses I bought, at least 10 would be like that, small, medium or large content sites. And then I bought a flurry of things that are a little bit interlinked because they all serve authors, because I'm publishing ebooks on Kindle. So I can see, this advertising thing would be useful. This template thing would be useful. This newsletter with a bunch of eager readers would be useful when you're launching. So I bought a few publishing related ones. And actually one business I bought was to learn how to do fiction, as I mentioned earlier. So I didn't know how to train. I'm not an author, but I'm publishing books. I pay ghostwriters to write the non-fiction ones, which is easy. They behave just like an Amazon product. It's just a search term needing a solution. But the fiction, they make tons of money, but you couldn't really crack that without becoming an author yourself or a long grind, trial and error, building up to that scale. So I bought one, and it was a pen name, paranormal fiction, crazy lady profile, 2 writers that came fully trained with a whole bunch of books all stacked up, ordered and organized. But I saw how they promote fiction books, how they work with editors, and the writing team puts it all together, and the marketing of fiction is really different. So I bought that.
So can I pull you up just on a comment? So you said there was a pen name. So for those uninitiated in the group here, explain that to me. What's the difference between like the authors and
So even my non-fiction books, there might be a book about dog training, but it's not by Sophie Howard. It's by Jenny Jones or something. They're all it's totally standard in the industry. So there's people like Lee Child and James Patterson. They have ghostwriters write their books, and they may or may not be their real names. So they have this sort of persona as the author. And so partly it's to keep your life private. Partly you can sell these Kindle accounts one day. So you can sell it as a business if you're not too attached in the middle of it.
So for those who like a bit of sci-fi, I'm a massive fan of the Expanse series. I've read all the books. I watched the TV series, even though it was like 100th as good as the books. Like it was nowhere near as good, and they never are. But that was written by, I think it's James S.A. Corey, which is there's actually 2 authors, completely different names. And so, that explains that, right? So they're building that author as an independent brand that obviously can be then sold.
Yeah, it's a product, not a person. And so a team of writers that churn out the words, and they need to be given a good brief. And so you've got to do a bit of research on what's selling on Amazon, and then which books are popular topics. And then you need to have a little team of writers, and you can do it through an agency or individuals. And then a few weeks later, out pops a book ready to sell. So I've really enjoyed that publishing space. It sort of suits me. I read a lot of books myself. It's not very competitive. And there's no stock, there's no print run of books. There's no book tours. There's no shipping, warehousing. All that stuff's just all weightless. It's pinged straight to people's phone. It's on your Kindle app. Or if it is a paperback that somebody orders, then Amazon just prints it on demand and ships it off. So
nice
business model, that one.
Yeah. Can I circle back now on the business you said you bought? I think you said it was the largest deal you've done is the newsletter. Mm-hmm. What does that business look like?
Oh, well, it was for sale through a private broker, not one of the big networks, but I've got various feeds out scanning the internet looking for businesses for sale that meet my criteria. And it was a bit of a lucky find. I'm quite lucky to have found it. It wasn't on a big, obvious platform. So that was a good start. Nobody else had seen it. worst marketed business ever. I don't think anyone had inquired about it. Some small town, Midwest vendor. So him and his local broker had got this listing together, and the asking price was $410,000. It's like, holy moly, that's in the US as well. That was pretty steep. So I had a look at it. I got the IM and I was like, well, I'm not sure this is for me, but I'll read this information memorandum, have a think through it, and maybe if vendor finance is an option or it's something really valuable and it's the only thing I ever need to do for the rest of my life and I can buy it and I can see how cool it is, maybe I'd be convinced. So I had a look at it. I was like, oh yeah, convinced. I want this. It was such a neat business model. So basically it's kind of like a daily deal site, but for authors or for readers. Okay. So the readers get a free book that's just gone live on Amazon. The authors get a flurry of that database of readers downloading their books. So the book shoots to the top of the rankings and hopefully some of those readers leave a review as well. And then the authors find readers for life for the rest of the series and they can promote a box set or whatever. So we basically sell 5 spots a day in this newsletter and the authors pay to be there. And then the subscribers, the readers, get it for free and they don't pay us. They're the lucky benefactors of this service. So it's really a commercial service for authors. But the neat thing is we bought it sitting on some weird and wonderful platform, but my technical Tess, put it over onto WordPress. And then instead of the authors emailing and then us negotiating which day and which slot they'd like and what date will the thing be published, and you better send us your link and your artwork in advance, we just redid it so that in a few days' work, Tess had it so that the authors chose their own date in the calendar, top spot or bottom of the page. Do they want to do a block of 10 books or one a week for 10 weeks? And then they add in their link and then they pay us on PayPal. And we just literally, all I do for that business is once a week, I get a thing that comes through on Skype with how much money it's made. So the asking price had been, and I've got a huge database of readers and a huge database of authors, and they're pretty handy things to have too. So the asking price had been $410. I got it down to $280 with some good negotiations.
Wow.
So I was pretty happy with that. So that was quite a low multiple, partly because I don't think it had been that well marketed. And you'd really need to be in the industry and have a bit of interest in it to run it. And I could see that upside of turning it around a bit. So I bought it and grew it. But I will not be selling this one. I'm really going to hang on to it. It's really steady. Every day, 5 people pay me $160. I mean, it makes 90-something K a year profit. Paid 200 something. It's pretty good multiple. Paid low 200s. Nice. So it's been great. It's already paid itself off. And I got one. So she's part-time. She's based in the States. She talks author language. She is an author herself. And she spends a few hours a week just keeping the authors, aware of our service and checking in with them. And she goes to a few book conferences and plugs it. And she has a nice time doing that. And
cool.
Very easy business. It's lovely. It's just pure cash.
Yeah.
No drama.
That's lovely.
Press.
Yeah. You mentioned the just going back to how you find. Obviously, you're in publishing, and that's quite a niche. So perhaps there are specific places to find publishing businesses. But typically speaking, how would you or how would most people go and find online or e-com businesses to buy?
Well, there's a few big marketplaces that make life easy, and one of the best ones is actually in Melbourne with you, Flipper. Flipper.com, flippa.com is great. So they do a bit of validation of the data. So if somebody's loading up a WordPress site, they'll actually go and check the Google Analytics and validate it, which saves a lot of loss going up there. So they do sort of starting right down at the $1 reserve starter sites, right through to multi-millions. And that's a great platform to find a lot of range of what's available. And they make the process pretty easy. There's escrow to protect your payment. There isn't a broker making a huge cut in the middle. Sorry, Simon. It's pretty low fees and, pretty transactional, but there's not a big sales complex sort of IM or any pack to put together for these businesses.
I thought Flipper took a fairly decent fee, actually. Don't they take a percentage of the transaction from the seller?
They take a percentage, but it's nowhere near as big as some of the other marketplaces, and certainly.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
Because I heard it was double digits, like over 10%.
No, I don't think so. Certainly.
But I could have that wrong. I'm.
Better double check that. But
yeah.
I've never sold a business.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
I've bought a few, so that bit's invisible to me actually. But.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And so Flipper's one of the big marketplaces. What are the?
Yeah. And then Empire Flippers is a really good one as well. I've bought a handful through there that have ended up being really good deals, and they present everything well, having validated it first. You've still got to do your own due diligence, and that's fine.
Yep.
But they start at sort of, there's probably nothing under 50K on there, and they go right up. But they have really neat businesses. It seems to attract really good people. And then there's Quiet Light. I'm just looking at a deal with them at the moment, which looks very interesting. The numbers are great, but I'm just trying to figure out if I'm actually interested enough in the subject. Got to be interested in the subject.
Gotcha.
So you've got to spend a lot of time working with people who are going to write about that subject for a content site. And then,
cool.
The good ones, FE International for e-commerce. So those are probably the big four for online only.
Okay.
So you can start nice and small and then get confident with the steps. You know, how do you migrate it? How do you hire the team? How do you come up with a content plan? Which agency do you use for this or that? And what about these plugin things? So there's a little bit of tech and stuff to migrate, but those platforms do make the migration pretty easy. They sort of do it for you with Empire Flippers, which is very nice. And you don't have your funds released until it's all up and working on your side. So if you say inherit an ad account and you're meant to have 100,000 visits a month to qualify for this higher tier account with a better service, if you don't hit that and you can't migrate the business onto that ad platform, then the funds aren't released and you renegotiate price. So it protects you both sides.
Okay. That's really interesting. Yeah. So it's good to hear that those sort of mechanisms are in place, because I think for a lot of people starting out, this is the great unknown, right? They just don't know what they're doing, and it's sort of, I think the risks sometimes probably a bit blown out in their minds anyway, because they're just unfamiliar.
Yeah. I mean, there are risks in any business, but I do think there's lower upside with lots of the other things you could invest in. So it's one thing to sort of be entrepreneurial and grow something from scratch, and we love doing that. But for people looking to just park up some money with a great return and they don't have lots of time, the real estate stuff, I don't know, what date this goes out, but our interest rates are horrid and the yields are awful, and the government is just making it less and less attractive to be a property investor. Just brutal. Some good things, tenants get warm, dry houses, all for that. But, the commercial side, interest rate deductibility, all of that stuff is just getting hammered. And we don't have a capital gains tax at the moment, but
agreed.
Sort of is a funny thing for a 10-year, and less than 10 years you pay a tax. So that's tough.
Yeah.
Crypto's tricky. Won't go there.
And land tax and everything else. And I did have one question. I mean, it sounds like you've been able to negotiate some pretty good deals, and, kudos to you. You've obviously got some good negotiation skills. In just broadly speaking, though, I mean, when you see businesses online being advertised at a certain price, I mean, do you look at that price and, let's say it's 100 grand or 200 grand, do you look at it and go, like, automatically assume it's never going to be that amount? It's probably going to be half that or something. You know what I mean? Is there a rule of thumb that you work off?
Yeah, actually, Biz Buy Sell, which is one of the big international platforms that does big quarterly reports because they have so much data, they just did an asking price versus final sell price sort of rolling average for the last few years, sort of quarter by quarter, and it's sort of pretty much stays in step. It's about 15% or so off the asking price. Seems to be pretty steady.
Right.
But I'd always rather pay full price and grab a brilliant business right there, right then for cash. If I see a real winner, I want it. If it's got that moat around it, it's Warren Buffett. I'd rather have a great business at great business at a fair price than a fair business at a great price. So that's always priority, quality, and its shelf life, because you don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to buy something that gets walloped because it's got a load of dodgy links in, or you didn't understand it properly. I like businesses I fully understand the business model, and nice if you can spot some upside potential. Not essential if it's well already. Nice if it comes with a team. I don't want to ever be the operator of one I buy. So the watch list gets quite long. I whittle through the scan quite quickly, and then when I see what I like, I move really fast. And so thanks to selling other businesses and other income streams, I was able to pay cash and negotiate pretty hard and pretty quick and get those vendors on the hook straight away for some that I really wanted. But vendor
that's a good thing you just led me to. I mean, paying cash for businesses obviously helps get deals done faster, and I want to touch on timing in a minute, but I'm curious, when you talk about deal structure, cash up front is certainly lovely for the seller, but often less appealing for buyers, particularly if there's potential risk involved in the deal. So have you ever done, or do you see things like earnouts or delayed or deferred payments, things like that coming into play with these style of businesses?
Yeah. So the tricky thing is to ever get a bank to lend on an online business. So generally, you're not going down traditional finance tracks anyway, so it's not even an option if you wanted it. And I've certainly never wanted to remortgage the house to buy one. So, I've bought a couple with cash, but don't get me wrong, I haven't got millions and millions I'm throwing at these things. I've bought a few really quick, small ones really aggressively. But vendor finance is pretty doable, and it doesn't even need to have interest attached. The ones I've negotiated vendor finance on, I've maybe paid a third or a quarter or half on the day of signing the deal, another half 6 months later, another dollop 12 months later. One of them, there was a calculation on the number of subscribers who were still subscribed, and that brought the final payment down because we had to change platforms. This guy had built it on Gumroad with his own private PayPal. We had to try and move everyone across to my PayPal and a business, change countries, email sequences to try and recruit them across. And so we lost a few, and he accepted that would happen. And I said, well, I don't want to pay for people I don't get. So that was all fine. So vendor finance would be the most easy and most typical. And if you had a broker sitting in on those calls and he said, look, I can do this deal, but only with 3 installments over 2 years, I think most brokers would help pep talk, their vendor into agreeing to that and it not being unreasonable.
Yeah. And is 2 years a fairly common term for these type of payments?
Yeah, I think my last one was over 12 months and that was okay.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a huge deal. So I don't think most vendors would expect cash up front for the whole thing. They might like to dream of it, but it depends on how many offers they get. But I do think it's definitely a buyer's market. There's far more businesses for sale and some really, really motivated vendors out there. And sometimes you don't, as you'll have had these conversations so many times, but the real reason somebody's selling versus the good reason, they're not always quite the same. They might just say, health or want to retire, but actually they're about to crash and burn and they really need to stop right now, or there's going to be some, full burnout mode kick in, or their spouse has given them an ultimatum. You never know quite what's going on emotionally in the real thing that they're dealing with. So, but by the time they've gone through all that work to prepare it for sale, all the data and double checking, all the working with the brokers and all that effort to prepare it for sale, they're kind of already mentally checked out. They just want it gone, and a done deal is sometimes just all they want. And to deal with somebody nice, so I always make sure I'm very friendly and warm and professional and build rapport with the vendors, and I'm never mean to them. I don't poke holes in their business and point out all the stuff they've done wrong. If I want to negotiate on something like subscribers I'll never inherit, I do it nicely. So I try to be a person they want to do business with. Try and get really good terms. Make sure they feel confident I'm going to run their business well. There's often a lot of emotional attachment, even though you never think there will be, there always is. So I just I've used those softer skills to get good prices and good deals and, good terms, not just the price, but the terms matter as much.
Well, it's one thing to get good terms, good price, all those sort of things. But as you said before, I mean, good business at a fair price is actually a good deal even. And it's what I see sometimes is just that not that people don't get the good price, they don't even get a deal because they fail around those soft skills that you've just talked about. And, I literally got off a call this morning and explaining to a business owner that, there's so many variables here. And so, number one, you've got to be really blunt with me about where you see the problems being, because we need to, it all comes out in due diligence. We need to be able to discuss it, talk through it, do it in a transparent way, et cetera, et cetera. But I said, fundamentally, you're only going to get a deal when you've got a willing buyer and a willing seller who can form a lot of trust in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And that means, don't be a dick. Yeah. You got to be respectful and polite. And, it might be a short-term relationship, but if you can't build it, you'll never get over the line.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of ego in what people have built. There's personal pride, but they also don't want to be told you don't want to haggle with someone over something that's a weak, and it's definitely will be a weakness. There'll be loads of weaknesses and flaws, but you can do it in a nice way and keep the relationship, and then, you can be a bit tough when you need to be, but generally, you want their goodwill
Yeah. No.
in business as well. I mean, you're going to find all sorts of, customers going to them, not you, or some passwords being, gone wonky somewhere. You need their goodwill for a good handover.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. It's funny. We were in the middle of a transaction just recently, and the other side had hired an external advisor to come in and do due diligence. And this guy was just, he was an accountant by trade and a bit of a purist, I would have thought, but he just didn't understand the simple concept of nothing is ever going to be perfect. But if you sit here just picking holes for the sake of trying to pick holes and just to try to win, it's like he was almost trying to insult the other side. And it's like, what is your goal here? Is your goal to get the deal done or try to look smart in front of your client? Because all you're doing is degrading the relationship here. And, they've spent how many thousands on you? They're not spending money on you for the fun of it. They want to buy a good company. And so understand what is worth negotiating over and what things you're just better off just to let them go, because nothing's ever perfect.
Yeah. I accept lots of imperfections, and I like to move ahead. I've moved quite fast through this, and I haven't had any deals go bad. Actually, every single one is a business I'm really proud and happy to own and will keep. I don't think I plan to sell any of them, actually. They're all just steady little earners and low drama, quality products or services. So it's been a really good feeling acquiring them. Different sort of energy to the highs and lows of the entrepreneurship side. Much more sort of steady investment brain, which isn't quite as thrilling, but it's really dependable. And there's something quite nice about dependable income that's online. So it's been good.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about what are you doing today? I know you've got your fingers in more pies than I can count at the moment, but how do you help people? What else do you do outside of buying businesses?
Well, if anybody else is looking to buy businesses, anyone listening who would like any help with that, I have been helping others. So today I've just been doing a deal review for one of my clients. So I do one-on-one feedback for people looking at buying online businesses as part of a program. So the program's called Freedom Navigator, and it's all about learning how to become kind of a sophisticated, confident buyer of online businesses. And nothing really tricky. Nice. It's not techie. I'm not techie. I have no idea about the tech in most of these complicated sites. So I keep them very simple business models, based on email or a WordPress site. I'm not sort of running developer teams for fancy software ideas. So I teach people basically the self-awareness stuff around which is going to be the best business model for you, and then get them really clear on their goals and their acquisition criteria and the budget, that sort of one-on-one personal stuff. And then go through the process of, finding the deals, shortlisting them, all those soft skills around negotiations, all the strategy stuff around what could you buy and improve, and then how will you operate things. So a bit of help on building an operating team. And then somewhere in there, when those clients find their first deals, I'll do a one-on-one deal review and give you feedback on, does that look like a good one? Not like your due diligence man that was hired in as the outside accountant sort. I'm not going to, rip the thing to shreds, but I'll be pointing out red flag here. This looks awesome. Have you thought of adding that product? This would be a great platform you could try that's not on at the moment, or that kind of thing. Or you'd really want to make sure that operator came with it because that would be a hard person to replace, that kind of thing. So maybe points for negotiation and help them buy some online businesses. And hopefully, after a couple of deals, you've got a handful of nice income streams from online businesses that give you a huge return on investment and nice lifestyle too.
Nice. Very nice. Well, what would you say to prospective business buyers who are looking at their first transaction and struggling mentally to pull the trigger?
Oh, there's so many people in that space. Like, I happen to know how many people are on the Empire Flippers email list. Those are potential buyers who sign up and look at deals for sale every single day. Their inbox gets hit with businesses for sale, but they never pull the trigger. And it is really difficult. It's quite nervy. I think the thing is to start small and feel familiar with the process. Buy a $1,000 site off Flipper that's on WordPress and do it up a bit. Just go through learn the ropes of, this is how you submit an offer, this is how you pay the money through escrow, and this is how it gets released when you've got the website to yourself, and this is how you add the advertising, this is how you add the affiliates, let's grow it a bit, this is how you hire this agency who can write all the content for you for the year. Just practice thinking like an investor and running an operation that you're not doing all the doing in yourself. And then
Yes.
the next one might be not that much bigger, but after a few of those, then you'll feel more confident with the steps and the process and the judgment of
Yeah.
criteria. Plus, if you want help, excuse me, if you want help assessing those deals or getting really confident with how to go about it and being in a community of other people doing it at the same time, come and join my group and I'll take you through it. But it's a really high upside. Those yields, the return on investment's phenomenally high. You don't need to do that many deals to
Yep.
live off those half dozen income streams or 3 or 4. I don't think you'd want just one big one. Better if you had one, say you had a round figure of 1 million, which is a lot, but do 3 deals
Yep.
or 5 deals, not one big one. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. Build a portfolio, but build them so they're a bit overlapping in the skills your team needs or the market they're in or the niche they're in or something broadly.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
too close, but a little bit of overlap's helpful. And
Yeah.
it's definitely doable, but I think mentally people have this bigger barrier because it's not like a building you buy and you own the building and you can see the tenant in there. But also, you don't get buildings that are mortgage free 3 years later with 6-figure income streams of pure profit that can be run from anywhere in the world. So
Indeed.
while there's a
Indeed.
few things to learn to get good at this, the return and the reward for that effort is really high. And I think it's the best asset class out there. It's not speculating. It's not like throwing your money into Bitcoin or even stocks and shares, picking Microsoft. I did buy some Microsoft shares, so I'm rather smug about that right now. I don't really this is not investment advice, but I'm not a stock picker. Can't do everything, and I'm not a stock picker. And I'm not really a property investor. I've got a few little bits and bobs, but if there's one thing to get good at that could really change your financial position and give you a really nice lifestyle and not need as much money up front as you think, if you get vendor finance on a handful of deals, you could suddenly have 3 really healthy income streams. The next installments of the payouts are pretty much earned through the profits. And then 2 or 3 years down the track, you've got a very healthy position. And maybe you keep the day job while you do it because they're not fully time consuming.
Yeah.
But they're pretty chunky pretty quickly. There's no overheads, there's no costs. And if they're well set up, they should just keep growing. And, got to check that they're quality.
Yeah, nice.
You've got all the bits and pieces you need to run it, the right team and set it up securely on the right platforms. And then it should just run smoothly.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Sophie, I got one last question for you today, which I'm always curious, having chatted to a lot of entrepreneurs and people from all walks of life and different experiences, but I'm interested in your definition of success. And before I get you to answer that, we're almost at time, so I wanted to throw out quickly and give you a moment to think about that perhaps, but are you happy for listeners to reach out to you? I mean, you've sort of mentioned that already. Like, what is the best way for people to reach out and connect with you?
Well, my website is Aspiring Entrepreneurs, which is a bit of a mouthful, but we'll maybe drop that in the show notes. And the course where I teach you how to buy an online business is called Freedom Navigator. So sort of a small group with some one-on-one and lots of help working out a business.
Cool. Are you happy for people to reach out on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, we met on a LinkedIn course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, awesome. We will put those notes, those links in the show notes. So for anybody who has wondered about the e-com world and how it can change your life and how you can sort of start down a different path, it really is fascinating. And clearly, we've certainly seen a massive growth in this space over the years, and more e-com businesses are being valued better and better over time. So, it's certainly something I'm passionate and interested in. So, yeah, if you'd like to learn more, reach out to Sophie, and I'm sure she'll be able to help you get started on this new stage of life. So, yeah, and with that in mind, Sophie, what does success mean to you?
Oh, such a difficult question. So it's not financial for me. That gives me, a nice feeling to check with some zeros in a bank, but at the end of a bank statement, not zero.
Yeah.
But probably it would be something lifestyle-y. It would be more about that feeling you have, like you've done all the work you need to do, you've done all the other family, all your life admin, and you still have that energy left and time left to, read, learn, have fun, travel. It's sort of some capacity left, or, there's what you do to earn your income and what you do to look after yourself, your health, your family, and all those obligations, there's still something left. I see so many people who are just either completely burned out or there's nothing in the tanks. And I
Yeah.
think success is having, done your day's work, go for a run, go and do something, meet
Yeah.
a friend. We've just got a new puppy who brings me so much joy. So just, it's not sort of having Lamborghinis and things. It's definitely um, kind of some modesty in your life, but really appreciating the good things and having plenty of energy and time left for the things that matter for you. So that's sort of my measure.
Yeah.
If I
Nice.
haven't had time to go for a run, or I'm snappy at the children because I've got back-to-back calls, that's an epic fail for me.
Yeah.
It really makes me cross at myself that I've had a week where that's got out of hand and looked like that, and I felt like that. I don't want to be that person. So that's
Yeah.
not success for me.
Yeah.
I've made a ton of money doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I like this. So it's I'm paraphrasing here, but it sounds to me like it's not about a destination. It's about you enjoying the journey the way you want to enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. And so if you're proud of the businesses you own, you feel good, you've got integrity, you're authentic, being yourself all day, every day, in my daughter's bedroom and my hair's sort of brushed, but there's people that are, would do these performances on screen, they'd be in the boardroom in a suit and a Lamborghini out the back. And, I'm just at
Oh
home
yeah.
with my children being very normal. And, it's all doable, this online stuff, but the businesses I own
Mm.
make me feel really good about what I'm doing and really good about helping other people do it too. So that's a nice thing.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Look, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've really enjoyed catching up with you. It was great to check in and hear how things are going in your world. And look, if we come across people sort of looking for some help in the e-com world, we certainly to send them over your way.
Brilliant. Thanks, Simon. And great to see you've got this podcast, really valuable for people listening because there's so many angles on, the stuff about selling and seeing so many deals go through. There's just, all these softer skills and data, and there's a lot to bring together to get these deals right for both sides. So really, really great
Yeah.
podcast. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. It's a funny one. It's people think selling a business or being in business, it's like selling a house or doing something like that. And I keep saying it couldn't be further from the truth. It's so much more to it. But it's hey, it's an education, it's a process, and we just want business owners out there who are on their journey to hopefully come out of this a little bit better, having heard the stories of other people who've come before them. So look, thanks again for coming on. I'm really appreciative. For those listening, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Buy, Grow, Sell podcast, and we look forward to having you again next week. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.